Next. What's special about sports is they allow everyday people like myself and others to resonate with athletes in a variety of ways, whether it be their mindset or their demeanor, etc., etc. Now, tennis isn't as popular as a lot of sports that we hear about in talk shows today. And this is what makes my presentation relevant, because people are more likely to learn something new about tennis, whether they're watching it, reading it, or even hearing about it. I wouldn't exactly call myself a tennis expert. However, it is one of the two sports that I have followed very exclusively throughout my life. And I have also had lessons when I was a kid, and I play a little bit still to this day, so I have some experience to call upon as well. Tennis is probably the most prestigious sport, and it's also an individual sport, which is what explains its lack of popularity. However, there's no denying its growth over the last 20 years. Next. Roger Federer became the first tennis superstar that the sport has ever seen. He racked up a total of 16 Grand Slams in a span of 7 years from 2003 to 2010. This would give him the record early on in his career. Now, he would have a drought for 4 years from 2012 to 2016. However, he would still finish his career with a total of 20 Grand Slams. And he also holds the Wimbledon and US Open records with 8 Wimbledon titles and 5 US Opens in a row. Federer was also so likable amongst the fans because his game was very beautiful to watch. If you watched him, it was literally like you're just watching a video game like tennis player in real life. He has every shot in the game too. His serve, his backhand, his forehand are all prototypical beautiful, and he has played the game at the highest level on every surface. Next. Now, his eventual 2 rivals would have something to say about his stature as well. Rafael Nadal was his first and only true rival early on, as within the same 2003 and 2010 window, he would have a total of 9 Grand Slams, 3 of them coming in 2010. Now, he didn't win as much early on in his career, but he would go on to have a total of 22 Grand Slams, 14 of them being at Roland Garros on the clay surface. Now, the special thing about him too is he's considered the greatest clay court player of all time, kind of in comparison to Roger, who's probably the greatest grass court player. Novak Djokovic arrived a little later in 2008 when he won his first Grand Slam. Now, he would also have a small drought only early in his career, but once he broke through, he would have 2 5-year windows where he would add 11 Grand Slams and then 12 more later on, which are the years of 2011 to 2016, he added 11, and from 2018 to 2023, he added 12 more. This is what gives him the record of current day record of 24 Grand Slams. As I mentioned too, he didn't win in 2017, so I just want to highlight real quick that the other 2 actually split 2 championships among them that year as well. Next. Now, these players have obviously had a lot of special effects on the sport. However, I would argue that there is one negative effect that they have on the sport. Up until last year's Wimbledon and this year's Australian Open, no man under the age of 35 had won Wimbledon, French Open, or the Australian Open. I think this is due to probably the sustained success of the Big Three. Because of this, you can argue that there's a lost generation among us, because other than Medvedev, a lot of players in their mid-20s are likely not to win a Grand Slam in their career. They just struggled with the pressure of living up to actually being the next generation, and yeah, they just weren't on the same level as Rafa and Novak. As I mentioned too, the last 2 champions, the last year Wimbledon and last year Australian Open, they're also 20 years old and 22 years old respectively, so there's clearly a wide gap of ages between the champions. I think the Baby Gen gives us more hope because they are the two that have won the last two champions, Carlos Alcaraz and Yannick Sinner. But I do think it'll be a couple years before they dominate the sport like these three. Thanks. As I mentioned before, it's no secret that tennis is more complicated and probably harder to understand than other sports. But there's no denying that ever since Roger won in 2003, the sport has really taken off. Just to put it in context, out of the last 81 majors played, these three have accounted for 66 of them winning. And in 7 of those, one of them was in the final and they lost. So 73 of them won, they were all there. I am thankful that these three have come through the sport and really done something special for it. And I think we should just enjoy Rafa and Novak while they're still playing, because when they decide to retire and hang their shoes up, that will be a very sad day in tennis.
What did it say?
Please tell me.
Oh my goodness.
It should be good. Yeah. Oh, with those battery mode, but you